Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Shifsky, and I am the Vice President of Dearborn Real Estate Education. I'm here with Chris Robinson today, and Chris Robinson is a National Account Director for Dearborn in sales. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming to our Dearborn webinar for April 2025. And today we're going to talk about not only the new law that creates the pre-licensing opportunities in Ohio, but we're going to talk about the process. So we have learned more from the last time we did this webinar, which was at the very beginning, all the way back in January. And we have learned a lot more since then. And so we're going to go ahead and share that today. And this is all about really what's it going to take to get your school approved and your program approved to offer pre-licensing in Ohio, which we think is the big opportunity of 2025 for all those people in schools who haven't been able to offer licensing education previously. Chris, good morning and welcome, and thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Toby. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Everybody, love to have you play along right off the bat. We're going to start with a poll question. I just want to know, of all the people that are on and in the session today, once again, poll questions are all anonymous. The text chatting is not anonymous. So if you're text chatting in the messaging, just remember your name is on that. But in the poll questions, this is all anonymous. Nobody's going to see this. But I want to know who's in the audience with us today. And so really quick poll question. If you would, please ask or answer the poll question within the poll question. Are you currently a Dearborn partner? Yes or no? Not yet or yes. Just go ahead and drop it into the poll question, and I'll move on beyond this one in 3, 2, 1, 0. And I always share the results. So here we go. I'm going to share the results. Look at that. We got 86% of the people on here, not yet. And 14% yes already. So very good. All right, so we got some new people here, not a Dearborn partner. Just so we're all clear, Dearborn, we sell real estate licensing content. We support schools, almost 1,000 educators across the country with our books and book offerings, and then our online RE Campus platform, along with the online courses. And Chris is somebody who calls on and speaks with and talks to and makes sure that those customers who want that products and services, you have access to everything you need, plus with some consultative insight from what we learn across the business, which is why I'm here today. As at Dearborn, as a partner for our education partners, our schools, almost 1,000 of them across the country, we share our information. We ourselves have a school, and we share that information to make sure that you are aware of what's going on. And that's what we're doing today. So just a quick review. Ohio Bill 238. Chris, it was the bill that kind of shook up the world of Ohio real estate licensing.
It sure did. Right. I mean, this bill really opens the door to so many different organizations to, offers the ability for them to offer real estate licensing. Whereas previously, this was regulated to institutions of higher learning. So yeah. Really exciting time.
You had to offer a degree program in the state of Ohio and be regulated by the board in order to offer the licensing education. And so now, effective April 9th, this April 9th, coming up in 1 week, certificate schools are going to be able to offer real estate licensing education. So here's really what the Bill 238 did, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Many of you here already know this. I'm just going to cover it real quick. So it changes the definition of institution of higher education and revises it to include institutions that have received certificate of registration from the State Board of Career Colleges and Schools as an institution approved to offer certificate programs. That's what we offer. We're a certificate program where we offer a licensing certification, licensing certification education. And so with this Bill 238, the change, it allows certificate educators to offer licensing education. It's a big deal. It's a big move. So let's jump in, because I can tell you, we've been through the process, and we're going to share what we learned as we went through the process. And we're going to give you some resources as we go. afterwards, if for any reason you guys can't stay on this whole webinar, which is going to take about 35 minutes, you can, we will send this out in an email, the whole video. You can watch it later. So just know that if you got to go for any reason, you can watch this later. But love to have you here and ask questions. So we have the chat open, and I'm forthcoming. I'll share everything I can to help you know what we know. And so once again, here's a state provided resource. If I could ask for maybe Jenna to drop this into the chat, that would be great. Everybody, if you look in the chat, you'll have access to this piece. This is really the state's 6 steps to getting your school approved and your program approved to offer real estate licensing education. And what we've done is just taken these 6 steps and then kind of expanded it with our own experience. Once again, I think this is a little bit of a fluid dynamic situation still, but the state is really pretty organized all the way through. In fact, our regulatory filing and reporting, so we work with a woman, Lisa, and Lisa was super impressed with Ohio, the organization here. And the good thing is, the more organized that a state is and a regulator is, which we found here, very, very organized for first time through this operation, there's consistency and predictability, so that you're not caught in an approval process that is like, well, we're waiting for somebody here, or, oh, you need the magic beans from over here to get in, or, no, it's pretty clear. I mean, there's a lot to it, and we're going to cover it, but it's clear. And I get super excited about that, because there's nothing worse than when somebody's not organized and then your process goes off the rails because they didn't do their stuff. And then it feels like somebody's trying to keep you out of business. And there's almost that, not at all here. Very straightforward, very forthcoming, very, very organized. So which I think is going to be to the benefit of everybody on this call, and benefit of anybody who's looking to be a school that offers licensing certification in Ohio. So first, step number 1, and we're going to cover it, 6 steps, right? So you got to contact the board, career college, to say, hey, hello, I'm interested in doing licensing education. What do I need to do? It's as simple as that. You got to either send them an email to this email address, or you got to call them. And either way, you're going to be able to get in the door and say, this is what I want to do. Right, this is probably the easiest step in the whole thing, because it literally is a simple little, 2-sentence, 3-sentence email, or 20-minute, 2-minute call that says, I'm interested, here's my information, what happens next? So once you contact them, then they will let you go on to step 2. The one disclaimer here, Chris, is if you're already approved by the board of career colleges and schools in Ohio to deliver certification education for some other certification, there's other certifications that the board governs, like there's like 6 or 7 other ones that they govern. But if you have one of those certifications, you can shortcut this process quite a bit. And I'll show you that it comes in like in step number 3, where you actually have to come back in, because you're going to just need to apply your new program application if you're already certified by the board. Okay, but I think most people on here are probably not certified by the board. I'm just guessing. And so let me ask a poll question of everybody, if I could, real quick, just to make sure, because I can gear this conversation towards it. But poll question number 2, if you would really quickly answer this poll question: is your school already certified by the board in Ohio? We're assuming most aren't, but some of you might be. So I just want to make sure that, because we're going to roll on like you're not, unless you do tell us that you are. So go ahead and take it, answer the question, if you could, on the poll real quick. Is your school already certified by the board? Yes or no? All right, 3. There we go. 2, 1, 0. Interesting. Okay, we got one who is. All right, so good for you. You're going to learn some extra information, but I will come back to you, because you fit in, like I said, about step 3. It all kind of goes the same for everybody then. And then no, we got 83% said no, that would need to get certified. Well, good for you, because like I said, the state's really pretty organized on this, and the process is really pretty straightforward. There's a lot of steps, but I think we've been able to, what did I move that? There we go. I think we've been able to understand it pretty quickly. And like I said, we're going to share this real quick. All right. So once you make that inquiry, once you connect with them and say, hey, I'm interested, and you need to be certified. If you haven't already been certified as a school, then you're going to need to be certified. And so what they want you to do is they want you to submit what's called their an initial inquiry, right? And how you have to do that is once you talk to them in step one, then they deem, yeah, you probably got to go to step two. They will create an account for you in their online system called Advera. So it's the Ohio Advera system. And in that, they're going to set up an account, and they're going to give you a document in there that you're going to need to have to fill out. So you're going to receive an email, though, with login information, and it's going to look just like this, right? So when you go to log in, it's going to look like one of these things, right? Like, oh, okay. And you're going to put in your email address, and you're going to put in your password, or they'll say forgot password, or they give you a temporary password. But you will be able to log in and access the first document that you have to fill out as a part of this process. Because before, remember, step one is either an email or a phone call. Step two is an initial inquiry document, right? And they will load it in your account on the Advera system, right? And what it'll do, this is allow you to fill this out. And you can read here so that the board can conduct an initial review of the programs and training you intend to provide, right? And they can then make sure that you should enter into the application process, right? The document, this initial inquiry document, will require information items such as school name, address, contact information. It's pretty high level, but it gives them a really good picture about who you are. So, who's your director name? Your school's going to have a director, brief description of the program, including course outlines, like, oh, we're going to do licensing program. It's going to be 2 40-hour courses, 2 10-hour courses. We're going to have, a final exam. We're going to, whatever your program is going to be. And once again, if you're a partner of Dearborn, we can help you with some of that documentation, at least on the outlines. And then indicate a previous regulatory oversight. So one of the things they want to know is, are you credible, right? And in this initial inquiry, you can help establish that pretty early on if you're actually already having regulatory oversight. So if you're doing CE in the state of Ohio, you're being regulated by a different entity, not the board, but you are being regulated. And how have you performed? Have you had any problems? Are you regulated by anybody in another state? So, Chris, how often do you get like questions from people that maybe are in always wanted to be in Ohio, but they're in a border state, and they offer licensing in another state, but they've wanted to go in Ohio, but they haven't been able to. Do you get that a lot at all?
Oh, absolutely, Toby. There's nothing worse for a real estate professional than to live on a border state and to have a customer inquiry from someone just right across the border. So
Yeah.
we do find that it's pretty common that people like to be dually licensed, and schools that offer, multiple licensing programs, for both states tend to do very well.
Yeah, I think we ran a whole analysis. I'll just share some info. And generally on a border state, what you can find is as much as 8 to 10% of licensees within those two states will have dual license across states. And of course, as you get closer and closer to the border, you get a higher and higher percentage. But with distance education, you can reach people on all borders with an online course. It's not just what you do in live classroom that's very geographically centered. Unless you're doing live online, once again, then your borders open wide open. So cross-border pollination, you already have customers who probably want to use you. They just haven't been able to. Here's a chance for you to broaden your horizons from state to state. Agreed. All right. So once you're in the submittal and initial inquiry, the board determines that the program's training must be approved by them. So once you submit that initial inquiry with that high level information, they then say, yep, you're ready. You've gone through another gate. So now you get to move on to step 3. And step 3 is where it gets a little more cumbersome. And so let's jump into step 3. Once again, I think Jenna viewed the steps in the webinar earlier, but Dearborn, we will have a resource for you. We've got to make sure it goes through all the proper channels, but if you're attending this webinar, we will send out an email to you with these kind of steps laid out. It'll probably be next week when we do that, probably when the video is released, or shortly after. So still working it through legal to make sure everything is accurate and up to date. Okay, so the board determines you get to move to step 3. Step 3. This is about completing and submitting really the hardcore documentation for your school. And when I say hardcore, it'll take you a little bit of time. It's not like 40 pages long. It's not like that. It's pretty straightforward. In fact, there's really 3 documents, right? There's a new school, there's a school director, and then there's a program application. So there's 3 of them, and I'm just going to kind of go right through them in order, and we can talk about them and talk about what you have to actually do. So once you make it to step 3, they'll actually load these documents back in the EdVera system. So you go back into that. You're going to use EdVera a lot. In fact, all the way through. In fact, there's kind of a real special piece to this EdVera system, which involves a $25 fee per student who's taking your licensing education. And we're going to talk about that at the very end because it kind of fits in at the very end. But EdVera is a very important system for you in the real estate licensing side of business. So they load these 3 documents. The first one, new school application document, right? You need to submit the document, and it just tells them really officially all about your business, including, programs, staff members, facilities, financial documentation. They want to make sure you're real, you have wherewithal, advertising and recruiting, and other items reviewed in accordance with Ohio's revised code, chapter 332, if you want to dig into exactly what it is. It's all laid out pretty straightforward, though. You can't really skip any steps, and you can go through it. Our team went through it really pretty fast. But the application, right? One of the things that goes in with this new school application, once again, this is if you're not already approved by them as a certificate operator. New school applicant, you must have a surety bond or some other security instrument, and that's for a $10,000 value. So most surety bonds, if you're depending on what your credit rating is and blah blah blah, you're going to spend anywhere from $100 for a $10,000 surety bond to $1,000, right? But that surety bond is also can be removed, that requirement. So if you have 5 years of good standing, you can ask to remove that surety bond requirement. They also do a certificate of deposit, which you can put so much money in a certificate of deposit. They just want to make sure you're real and that you don't come in and injure a bunch of students and close your doors and then there's people standing there, holding the bag. We see this in just about every state now, that there's some sort of bonding or security instrument required. All right. So the second document that you have to fill out is a new director application document, and there's training required with this. So not only you have to have who the director is, every school has to have a director, but they require a mandatory school director training course, 4-hour course. Chris, when's the last time you did a 4-hour online course?
Well, I do go online courses all the time, Toby, so I might not be the best example here, but I would imagine that most people, don't do an online course all that often.
Yeah, well, then here's the key. The real key is it's a pretty straightforward course. It's about 4 hours, 4 credit hours. And but the key is you got to take the course because you have to pass a final exam. and if you don't pass the final exam, you don't get to apply. And so you only get 2 attempts, and then you have to retake the course again. So just like, licensing students in some states with a limited amount of attempts in their final exam, it's under a little bit of pressure. So the good news is they will connect you with that, and here we go, I'm jumping ahead. And you will know exactly where you need to be because if you just follow the steps in the EdVera system. Then there's the last document is the new program application document. And this is where Dearborn comes in as your partner. because this is where you'll need kind of an understanding of the books you're going to use, right? Course outline, because what in the state of Ohio, what you're going to get approved is you're going to get your program approved. It's not necessarily an individual course that's approved. It's everything that you want or need in your program. And that can be a full distance education program. It can be a live in-person program, and it could be a live online program. You could even do hybrid. You could do part online, part live online. You know, you create the program. You do have to cover all the material. And if you use distance education, which is an asynchronous delivery of the content, your courses need to be Arello approved. And they need to be of the appropriate length, and your platform needs to be approved. So the good news is the RE Campus platform, our platform is already approved. The courses are already Arello approved. They are ready to go for your program. We have the outlines available. We have everything ready. If you're doing in-person or live education, we have the books, we have outlines. You, once again, can have just about everything you need in order to get your program approved. All right. Then you will receive an invoice for application fees. So this is the part where it starts to cost you money, is in step 3. You put in those documents, Chris. How happy are we spending money? The good news is when you get to this point, you've already gone through a couple good gates. And there's a really pretty good indication of the direction you're going. You've solved some problems or questions that may have already come up. And so the key here is what's it going to cost you? Because this is, like I said, where you start to spend money. It's variable. There's a variable rate. It's like from $200 to $1,000. And it's really based on how much revenue you project your school is going to bring in. I imagine a lot of people are going to be the $200, $400, or maximum $1,000 in fees at this point. Okay. So in fact, I think Jenna just dropped into the chat the actual address if you want to go see that fee schedule. Once again, state's very organized. This information is really laid out really pretty good. And the fact that, you know, like I said, we've been through it, we can help and make sure that we're answering any questions that you have also. So, and then once you do that, once you pay the fee and all your applications are in, you're going to be assigned a staff member, an actual living, breathing person that will assist you with that application. And you get to move to the next step. Oop, 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 oop. Here we go. I don't know why that does that. Hang on. There we go. So you're going to get to move to the next step in the application. And so step 4 in the application, it's application review and site visit. This is the part where your applications are in, you've paid for it, and you're really kind of marching in to the goal line's not too far away now. So Chris, with the Dearborn courses and the Dearborn books and the Dearborn platform, are you finding, I know you've already worked with some clients, are you finding that the content and the awareness of the content and materials and platforms with the regulator was clear? Were there any objections people need to be aware of with the Dearborn content?
There aren't. No, Toby, I think the team did a really great job of reorganizing that Ohio material from the 120-hour requirement previously down to the 100-hour requirement, and really kind of revamping everything to make sure it's fresh and accurate and up to date. So no, it's been a positive experience for the customers that have worked through the process thus far. Got it.
Super good. Like I said, really the regulator's in a good spot. Dearborn's already gotten the content through, already got the plat form through. And so, you know, you get to capitalize on that. And then the experience, like I said, for us to be able to make sure you are prepared for the business you want in Ohio. So, when it comes to a site visit, there's really 2 things. Either you're a distance education provider or you're somebody who's going to do live kind of in-person education in Ohio. And this is the part where you have two different kind of site visits, right? And so what happens is they want you to be able to determine that. And in this case here, right, any deficiencies in your applications will be addressed before they do the site visit. So this is when they actually have somebody who's assigned to you now. That person will work through everything. That person will generally be the person who does your site visit. You'll have one more piece of documentation to fill out before the site visit, though. That's after you've cleared all the things on your application. If there's any empty boxes or questions or anything. Once that's done, they will send you one last questionnaire. And once again, it's a very detailed questionnaire, check boxes. There's some redundancy in it from previous stuff you've done, but it kind of puts everything into one spot so that the site visit, be either virtual visit, if you're just doing distance education, or in person, there's a checklist that they can follow through and ask any questions. So it's very, very straightforward. If you're, like I said, if you're distance education, you're going to do a site visit. The good news is about your site visit, if you're a Dearborn partner on the RE Campus platform, you will not have to review the platform with them. It's already approved. The courses are already Arello approved. So a virtual site visit can be as little as 10 minutes. Now, if you have a physical on-site location in Ohio that you're going to be running education out of, then that will schedule a site visit. That's a whole nother animal. It takes a little more time, I'm sure. We did not do a site visit. We are a total distance educator. And so on this side, but I'm sure some of you will have to do an on-site visit. You may have already had to do it before for continuing education, but the stuff they're looking for is the location, conducive to adult learning? Is it meet fire codes? All that kind of stuff. So your site visit has to make sure that and once again, the regulator will always try to make sure that the public is safe. And so that's a big part of what that piece is. Okay, once again, if you've got any questions, drop your questions into the chat and we can answer questions as we go. If you got questions for Chris or questions for me. All right. So once again, your application review and site visit, you'll have to demonstrate a couple things. And this is what we found out going through the process. You won't find this in other documents at this point, but one of the things is you're going to have to demonstrate how you're going to maintain student enrollment records. You have to maintain enrollment records for 5 years in Ohio. So everybody who enrolls in your course, you got to keep that record for 5 years. You can keep the records in paper format or digital format. I would highly advise digital. Everything that we've seen so far across the country is anybody who had offered paper and digital soon required everybody to store them digitally. So, and you have to make sure they're protected. So storing them properly digitally so that the transfer of the information is quick and easy with the regulator if they ask for it. The one additional step is you'll need to demonstrate how student identifiable information, so for completions, how uniquely identifiable information for completions, meaning different than an enrollment, which is the first thing you have to save records for 5 years. It's if you have a completion. So when a student completes your education, Chris, they have to store that information forever, essentially indefinitely. And if you're like me, I don't want to be storing that in paper. I would store it in digital. And once again, most states we've seen move to digital requirement. So here's the thing. It can be a Google Doc. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be spreadsheet format. You can save that information any way that you have. Just once again, you're going to need to demonstrate how you're going to make sure it's secure. Is there a password protected? Is it, those kind of things to make sure that you're not putting, once again, students and the public in harm's way with how you're dealing with their records. And then you have to present your completion certificate. What's it going to look like in the end when somebody completes your program? Once again, at Dearborn, we have some templates that we use, but by all means, you can do your own templates too. Okay, so that's in step 4 and in step 5. Now, you've done all that, you've completed all that, and you move on to step 5. And this all happens fairly quickly, over a couple weeks. And Because the goal now is you've gone through all the applications, you've cleared up all the issues, you had your site visit, you've cleared any issues in your site visit, and now you're moving into kind of this thing to getting onto your public board meeting. So in order to be approved ultimately as a school and your program gets approved and your director gets approved, everybody gets approved, you have to get the approval at the public board meeting of the Board of Colleges, Career Colleges and Schools in Ohio. Now that meeting meets every 2 months. And so if you miss 1 month, you've got at least 2 months to get on. And the new applications are limited per board meeting. So they only allow so many of them. And then you have to get on the next meeting, which could be 2 months out from that. So I can't stress enough, timing is of the essence. How quickly can you get through? And once again, we're super excited because you're not going to be slowed down because of Dearborn. We've already done the hard work. And so if you want to get up and running quickly, we're there. We're there and we've been through it. All right. So the public board meeting. So if I just go back one step to step 5, you will be notified once your school is on that public board meeting agenda. You will get a notice from the board that says, "Yep, you are now placed on the agenda." And there's actually a really kind of organized page that talks about these meetings, and it also talks about when you'll know by if you made the next board meeting. So it's like 2 weeks before that board meeting, they will post everybody on the agenda. And you know what, I don't have the link to it here, but we'll get it and be able to send it out with the kind of finished documents later for everybody. But you can see what those dates are and when they're planned. It's very organized, very straightforward. So once again, they are limited though. Even though you get in place, you might have to wait while the other people go ahead of you who are already in. All right. So once again, they're limited. There is almost no discussion at the board meeting. Now, we had sent 2 representatives there, actually to be there physically. You can't, they don't do a remote login. There is no remote login. You either there in person or you don't show up. It is a bit of a formality at the point where it gets to this. There isn't a whole lot of discussion. They were very appreciative of our people for showing up, but really there was no real discussion. It was everything's in place, everything's in order. You know, vote, yay, nay, and through it went, because really the process kind of took care of everything all the way up to that point. So upon the board approval, you will be expected to pay any fees that you haven't paid in advance. So if you want to get up and running quickly, because once you get that approval from the board, your program is approved. That means your courses are all approved, your instructor's approved, your school's approved, you are good to go. But you actually need that certificate back from them before you can start offering classes. And so the faster you take care of any unpaid fees, because really there's I think it's like a $500 fee that you can only pay by check or money order. Now, here's the thing. You can prepay these fees by credit card, all the other fees by credit card earlier, but you can never pay this Ohio Student Tuition Recovery Fund fee. And you can only pay that by check or money order. It goes to a different part of their apparatus. And so they need to be paid by check or money order. And luckily, you know, our representative who went to the board meeting actually had a personal check and had to write a personal check for $500. But they received their approval, their certification almost instantly then, because they didn't have to wait for money order, check to clear, all that kind of stuff. So just be aware that this little $500 fee is a real thing. The board meeting's very fast. You don't say a lot. Make sure you paid your fees, right? Final approval, Chris, gets entered into the Advera system. So once again, you go into the Advera to find your certificate, and your school director will receive a notification from Advera within a few days of when that is in the system. So the faster you pay everything, the quicker you get it done, the quicker you're up and running. Once you receive your final approval, this is where all the fun starts, Chris. This is where you're in business. And so What does that mean to be in business? That means quite a few things to a lot of people. I can tell you one thing it means, and this is very important for everybody. There's an additional component to the real estate licensing program that is basically has to be bolted on to the front of your program. And if you're not familiar with this, in the state of Ohio, every single student needs to watch a 5-minute video produced by the board. It's a disclosure, right? Student disclosure by the board. And it's a simple 5-minute video. And every student has to watch it prior to starting their courses. So, and the real trick is it's not a difficult video. It's very straightforward. It's very a disclosure. But there's a $25 per student fee that has to be paid to the Ohio board, and you pay it through the Edvera system for every enrollment. There's a promo code involved. But here's the real key. It's a $25 fee, and you can't charge the student extra for that fee. You can't say, oh, our education is X dollars plus $25 fee. That $25 fee has to be paid for out of the tuition. So you can't do it as an add-on fee. That can't happen. So that's a little bit of a tricky, and it's a little bit to understand, but when you're going through and you're figuring out your pricing, you're going to have to bake in that cost because the student is not allowed to pay that. Now, there's some more little rules around it, but essentially that's it. And I can tell you that we are working on a delivery of that video in our RE Campus platform, which will be a part of the regular courses so that you won't need to send students out somewhere to do that 5-minute video. They'll actually be able to do it right within the courses within our learning management system. And then it'll tally how many people are actually watching that video, and it'll force them to do it before they do the courses. So we are working on a solution on that right now, and should have that available to you when the time comes. Otherwise, you'll be responsible for that on your own. Once again, it just involves going through the Edvera system, buying a one-time use promo code, allowing the student to use that promo code when they log into to watch their videos. So a couple different ways to skin a cat, but just remember, you can't charge the student an additional fee. You have to bake it into the price of your education. All right. So let's do this. I want to move into any more questions from people. I know that we have a bunch of people on here who are interested in kind of what does this really look like as far as the products, Chris? And I'm going to look for your help on this. But there's one last piece I would cover, and it's just the ongoing maintenance. Once you're in and you're through all the applications and all that kind of stuff, your initial approval is good for 1 year. You're going to be required to resubmit a renewal application. It's a pretty straightforward application, right? Talks about how many enrollments, what business, that kind of a thing. But then the subsequent registration is every 2 years. There is required director training. They want to make sure the directors and probably do another online course. They have to make sure they stay up to speed on what's expected of the school directors. But that's pretty low maintenance program for an entire licensing program. For your certification school. So, all right, let's jump in. Chris, why don't you take us through, because you did mention it earlier that there's a new licensing requirement. It's not 120 hours, it's 100 hours. And our courses are all right-sized and prepared for this. Why don't you take us through?
Yeah, they sure are. Yeah, so Dearborn can support schools either with textbooks for live instruction, whether that be physically in a classroom or virtually through Zoom or another live online platform. Textbooks and ebooks are all set up for that. It's actually a 3 textbook set to cover the full 100-hour education requirement. 80 hours of it in our Modern Real Estate Practice in Ohio book. We've got an appraisal textbook and a finance textbook to kind of tack on those additional 10-hour courses. So all that's set up and ready to go. Our team has developed an outline so that you know how to use those 3 books together to deliver this 100 hours properly, which content to cover.
Your whole program, yep.
Right. Final exam that wraps everything together for you. Dearborn provides you with a PowerPoint presentation for your classroom delivery. And that's for the textbooks, the classroom piece. Dearborn also has self-paced online education ready to go for schools. So whether you want to offer strictly classroom delivery or online and classroom delivery, it's always my suggestion to offer students the option. Everybody's got a different learning style. They have different lifestyle goals, and some people don't have time to sit in a physical class and they need that online self-paced training. So offering both delivery methods is, usually my suggestion, but we leave it up to the schools. It's your business. It's up to you how you want to operate that business. And Dearborn just supports you on the back end with the course material that you'll need.
Yeah. Or online platform, either way.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. And once again, these are tried and true and polished books, right? They're fully updated, fully ready for today's licensing requirements, and they're comprehensive. There's also, the guides for instructor guides. There's all these different pieces that you get with the books. Obviously, there's also some exam prep information in there too, right? So we offer exam prep products for Ohio. Really, their QBank is our online test taking tool. Give us an indication of what's in that QBank, because not a lot of people are familiar with it. Really, a full-on test taking practice tool.
Of course. Yeah, it's a really comprehensive tool. So we're not talking about just practice questions, right? I mean, there are rationales so that students understand why they got a question wrong or right. They can create their own practice exams based on certain topics, or they can have Dearborn generate our own practice exam for them. So there are a lot of different options in that exam prep. It kind of shows how they stack up against other students through a dashboard. So the exam prep tool is really nice because although the licensing courses do an excellent job of helping students to understand the content and the material, really the exam prep, what it does is prepare them for the state exam. And as I'm sure a lot of these questions can sometimes be tricky for students. They require some critical thinking. They're not always straightforward. So what Dearborn's exam preparation tool does is teach students how these questions are going to be presented on the state exam so that when they sit for the actual licensing exam, they're not surprised or confused. They're confident and they understand, what's being asked and how to choose the correct answer. So that's why our exam prep products are really better than anyone else's.
I agree. I think we do a fantastic job with the exam prep. I mean, for all you educators, because I know we got educators on here, for a lot of people, the hardest part, especially if they're doing distance education, online, asynchronous education, the hardest part for most students is just getting through the education. 100 hours is not a small amount of online education. And we do a lot for that online education, a lot of instructional design, a lot of methodology and pedagogy involved to get people invested in the education as opposed to quitting the education. And that is a challenge. And so you've got an organization that we measure success by completion rates, and then we measure pass rates. And so when Chris says the exam prep is really for preparing for their licensing exam, it's true. We spend a lot of time just getting people to make sure they can make it through the course. And then, right, we take them and can put a polish on just about anybody. Not everybody passes their exam on the first time. We all know that. If you're an educator, you realize the difference between a passing score and a cut rate, pass rate in a state, like how much the state allows, first-time test, what percentage of first-time test takers they want to actually pass their exam. So, but we spend an awful lot of time and effort making sure that we have courses and content that get people through the education so they can go take their state exam. And then we have the exam prep products to put a serious polish on them. Chris, where should people go if they want to connect and look at the product? And you can voyeur in. We have a brand new website too. So where should people go?
Yeah, I mean, the website is a really great resource because it outlines all of the products that we have available, not just licensing, Toby, but we have continuing education products specific to Ohio that our online or RE campus partners can use. In addition to the exam prep, there's professional development types of courses. You'll find all that information on the website or in our catalog. But to be completely honest with you, the best thing for people to do is just have a conversation with myself or one of my sales colleagues, because we can share a lot of information about these products that you may not get, just through browsing the website or the catalog. I would
Now,
suggest reaching out to partners at dearborn.com, and I'll throw that email address in the chat here for anybody
yeah.
that, that's
Well, I tell
interested.
you what, how about I ask a poll question, right? Once again, these are anonymous, but if you would answer the poll question, would you like to speak with a national account director like Chris to become RE Campus or a book partner? Oh, poll has been launched in the meeting. Very good. All right, so go ahead and answer this question if you would. Can everybody see that poll question? I think I am, but put it in there. Poll has been launched. I'm not seeing the poll question. Yeah, you know what? Either am I. Hang on. I got to do this again, maybe. So 1 second. All right, we'll do it one more time. Poll question 3. Huh, it's not launching. All right. Well, I tell you what, and I'm not sure why it's not launching, but
Well, that's okay. Toby, what I could do is just email the participants here, and that way they can reach out to me, back out to me if they have any questions or need any follow-up, if
let's
that's
do
all
that.
right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. Chris is dropping into the chat contact information. Contact him directly. I had a poll question. It was going to make it very easy because he would have reached out to you. But this way, you're driving. Put it. Grab his email. The partners at Dearborn. And once again, we'd love to hear from you. We are excited. We are already working with partners in the state to move them forward. You should be a part of this too. It's going to be a pretty competitive environment. But I think it's going to be really good for the people of Ohio. I love the way that their regulator is super organized. It's going to make for a very consistent process for people. There's not a lot of guessing. But once again, speed to play is going to be important. Getting in position to take advantage of this. Chris, any last thoughts for everybody?
No, I appreciate all your time today, Toby, and I hope that the information was useful to our participants. And of course, we're available if any questions come up as you work through the process.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody.